I paid my sister and her fiancé's rent for 8 months straight. But on my dad's birthday, I overheard them laughing, saying, "He's too stupid to realize we'll never pay him back." I didn't say a word, I just stopped paying. A month later, they showed up at my door in tears, saying the landlord. My sister Tara always had this way of turning her mistakes into someone else's responsibility. She was younger than me by 4 years, but somehow managed to make it seem like she'd survived a harder life. I bought into it for a long time. I figured, hey, she's family. He just needs a break. What I didn't realize at the time was how easy it is for some people to take advantage of kindness when they know you'll never call them out. It started with a late-night phone call. Terry was crying. She and Mark had been living in this apartment just outside of Cincinnati for 6 months, and apparently they were already 2 months behind on rent. Their landlord had sent them a final notice. They had 5 days to pay or leave. She didn't ask directly. She said things like, "I don't know what we're going to do, and if we end up on the street, it's just going to break Mom." She dropped Mark's name constantly, made it sound like they were in this desperate situation together, fighting for their future. I told her I'd help. I transferred $150 to their landlord. The next morning, that was the first month. It became routine after that. Every month on the first, I'd send money straight to the landlord. Tara would text me the amount, usually somewhere between $900 and $1,200. I didn't ask why it fluctuated. I didn't ask what Mark was doing for work or why Tara, who claimed to have picked up freelance gigs, couldn't manage a couple hundred herself. I just kept sending money. In April, I paid for their rent the same week I was hit with a $780 car repair bill. I dipped into my savings and ate peanut butter sandwiches for 9 days straight. I kept telling myself they'll pay me back. I was tracking everything on a spreadsheet just to keep myself from feeling like a fool. Every time I updated it, I imagined them someday showing up with a check, hugging me, saying something like, "We never could have made it without you." That illusion shattered on my dad's birthday. We had this little backyard dinner, something low-key. My mom grilled burgers, my aunt brought pie, and I remember Dad being in a really good mood. Tara and Mark showed up late, but no one minded. They smiled, laughed, acted like everything was fine. Around 9 o'clock, I stepped out to my car to grab the board game I promised to bring. On the way back, I passed the side of the house. That's when I heard them. They were standing near the porch, just out of view, voices low but not low enough. Mark said he's too dumb to realize we'll never pay him back. Tara laughed, not awkwardly, just casually, like they'd had this conversation before. She said something I'll never forget. "Why would we? He acts like it's his job to save everyone." I just stood there. I didn't say anything that night. I smiled through the game, hugged everyone goodbye, and went home. I laid in bed for hours going over every dollar I'd sent, every lie they told. I looked at my spreadsheet and deleted it. The next month, I didn't send anything. I blocked Tara's landlord's number. No one texted. Not Tara, not Mark, nothing. I thought maybe they'd figured it out. Maybe someone else was footing the bill now. I didn't really care. Then for weeks later, I came home from work to find them standing on my doorstep. T was crying. Her hair was wet from the rain. Mark looked like he hadn't showered. Their stuff was packed into the backseat of an old Honda. "The landlord locked us out," she said. "We're homeless." We didn't know who else to come to. I just stared at them. Not angry, not smug, just empty. That was the moment I realized I wasn't their safety net. I was their plan, their only plan. And now that it was gone, they were finally facing the consequences. I didn't invite them inside. Tara was soaked, holding her phone in one hand and a half-torn grocery bag in the other. Mark stood behind her with his hood up and a duffel bag slung over his shoulder. They looked exactly like what they were. Two people who had finally run out of road. She said the landlord had thrown their stuff onto the curb and changed the locks, that they hadn't even gotten a warning, that it wasn't legal and they were going to file something. I don't even remember what. The way she said it was like she thought I'd be shocked, like I'd take their side without asking a single question. But I wasn't shocked. I asked her when the last time they paid rent was. He paused too long, looked at Mark like she wanted him to answer. He said it was a while ago and blamed some vague emergency I didn't even ask about. I wasn't interested in excuses anymore. I told them I'd heard what they said on Dad's birthday. Tara froze. Mark actually looked surprised for a second, like he'd forgotten it even happened. She started to say it was a joke, that I misheard, that I took it out of context. She even laughed a little, but it was the wrong kind of laugh. The kind you use when you're stalling. I asked her how long they planned to keep taking money from me. She didn't answer. Then I said the thing I'd been holding in for 8 months, that I wasn't their bank. I wasn't their backup plan. I was done. The moment she realized I wasn't going to offer them a place to stay, everything shifted. Her tone snapped from soft to sharp. She called me selfish, said I was punishing them during their worst moment, said I owed her after everything she'd been through, that if roles were reversed, she'd help me. I didn't believe that for a second. She said it was just a few nights, just until they found something, just until they figured it out. But that's what she always said. Just until, always temporary, always a promise that never led anywhere. I told them no. Tara's eyes filled up again, but this time she wasn't sad, she was furious. Mark just stood there like a statue staring at the ground. They left without another word, got into their beat-up car and drove off. I watched them go. I didn't cry, I didn't second-guess myself. I went inside and made dinner. The silence afterward was strange. Not peaceful, just empty. I thought that would be it. Maybe they'd move in with one of Mark's friends or go back to Tara's old college roommate. Maybe they'd finally try to stand on their own. But 2 days later, my phone rang. Who is my mom? She didn't say hi, she didn't ask how I was doing, she went straight into it. What the hell is wrong with you? Tara had told her everything well, her version, that they got kicked out, that they were sleeping in their car, that they had no money, no options, no one else, and that her own sister had turned her away. I tried to explain, told her about the rent I'd been paying for 8 months straight, how I'd never gotten a cent back, how they made fun of me behind my back while I was draining my savings to keep them afloat. She didn't believe it, or maybe she didn't want to. Family doesn't turn their backs on each other, she said. You think you're better than her just because you have a job and an apartment. I asked her if she'd let Tara and Mark move in with her. Silence. Of course she wouldn't. She and Dad barely had enough space for themselves. She wanted me to deal with it because I was the oldest, because I had a steady income, because I was the responsible one. That was always the dynamic growing up. Tara messed up and I fixed it. She cried and I made it better. She wrecked something and I paid for it, literally in this case. I ended the call before it could get worse. That night I got one message from Tara. I hope you're happy. We have nowhere else to go. I stared at it for a long time. Then I turned my phone off and went to bed. But I knew this wasn't over. They weren't going to disappear quietly. The next move wasn't going to be theirs. It was going to be my parents', and they weren't coming to ask nicely. It started with a group text. My dad, who almost never texted anyone unless it was logistics or weather updates, suddenly sent this massive paragraph in the family group chat. But the moment I read it, I knew it wasn't really from him. It had my mom's fingerprints all over it. Too many exclamation points, too many lines like, "Family sticks together no matter what." And it's not about money, it's about compassion. And the one that really stuck, "We're so disappointed in how cold you've been. What would Grandma think if she saw this?" I didn't reply. An hour later, my Aunt Lisa called. She's been the designated family peacekeeper since forever. She tried to sound casual, like she was just checking in, but within 2 minutes she was talking about Tara. Apparently, Tara and Mark were staying at a cheap motel. The kind of place with flickering neon signs and vending machines that hadn't been restocked in years. They had just enough left on one of Mark's credit cards to maybe survive 2 nights. Lisa said Mark was looking for work and Tara was trying to stay positive. But then she slipped in what she'd really called to say, "Grace, maybe this has gone a little too far. You've made your point. Don't you think it's time to be the bigger person?" The bigger person, the phrase that always meant the same thing. Swallow your feelings, fix the mess, pretend nothing happened. I told her about the 8 months of rent I'd paid, about overhearing them mocking me, and even repeated Mark's words, "He's too dumb to realize we'll never pay him back." Lisa went quiet, then said what I knew was coming. People say things they don't mean when they're stressed. So now, somehow, it was my fault for helping. I thanked her and hung up before she could continue. That night when I took out the trash, I noticed a familiar car parked across the street, Tara's Honda, with the busted tail light and that stupid bumper sticker. I stood there waiting, and then my phone buzzed. "Can we talk?" "Just 5 minutes." I didn't reply. The next morning, I got a voicemail from my dad, not angry, just disappointed. He said Mom hadn't slept, that she was heartbroken, and that Tara was in danger sleeping in her car. This isn't like you, Grace. We raised you better than this. That line hit hard, but it made things clear. No one wanted to talk about how Tara had used me, lied to me, laughed at me. They didn't want truth, they wanted peace at my expense. To them, I wasn't Grace, their daughter. I was Grace, the one with the paycheck, the apartment, and the endless patience. That weekend, I went to see them. The air was heavy, my mom barely looked at me, and my dad just said, "You need to fix this." Not we, just me. I asked why it was always my job. No answer. Mom said Tara was fragile. I finished my coffee and left. Later, Tara texted, "Please, one night just until we figure something out." But I knew one night would turn into months. I didn't reply. 3 days passed with silence, no calls, no guilt memes, nothing. I almost believed it was over. I was wrong. Thursday, I came home to find my mom on my porch with a Tupperware of soup, pretending it was a friendly visit. She accused me of letting my sister suffer. I let her in but told her I wasn't fixing it this time. She said, "You were raised better, we help each other." That was rich. Tara never helped anyone. I reminded her how I'd overheard them laughing about never paying me back and how no one, not Tara, not Mark, not even them, had ever said thank you. Mom didn't deny it. She just said, "You've always been strong, she's delicate." That word, delicate, changed everything. Mom stayed another 10 minutes, guilt-tripping, then left. The soup stayed untouched. That night, Tara called, crying in a voicemail about running out of gas, sleeping behind a gas station, and being scared. The next morning, my brother Josh called, the quiet one who avoids drama. He said Mom and Dad were thinking of letting Tara and Mark move back in, but only if I agreed to support them financially. I laughed. "If they want to help, that's their choice. I'm done." Josh sighed. "You know this is going to explode, right?" I said. "It already has." That night, Tara's car appeared across the street again. She sat there for an hour just staring at my house before driving off. The next morning, my parents confronted me outside my office. Dad's tone was calm, which somehow made it worse. "You need to fix this," he said. I told him I wasn't fixing anything anymore. I laid out everything, the money, the lies, the disrespect. He said, "This isn't about money. You're tearing the family apart." I told him I was just done cleaning up someone else's mess. He looked at me like I was a stranger and said, "If she doesn't make it through this, you'll regret it forever." That stuck with me. After that, silence again, the calm before the next storm. Then came the messages. Old friends, mutuals, strangers judging me for letting Tara live in her car. And then a letter from my mom, soft words sharpened with guilt. She wrote, "There may come a time when Tara's not here anymore and you'll wish you hadn't turned your back." I folded the letter and put it away. The next day, my boss called me in. Apparently, someone had shown up at the office asking for me. I apologized and left feeling like my life had become a bad soap opera. That night, I shut my phone off completely. Finally, Saturday morning, there was a knock. I opened the door to find Mark, exhausted, unshaven, holding a beat-up envelope. He didn't say much. He didn't have to. He came to me with an envelope, receipts, motel stays, job applications, a list of things they'd sold, and said he just wanted me to see it. No speech, no tears, just gone. For the first time in a long while, I felt quiet, real quiet. The next morning, Tara texted, "Thank you for making me face it." No drama, no excuses, just words that sounded like her. Days later, she showed up at my door, no makeup, no pretense, and said she didn't want anything, just needed to say she was sorry. She admitted she used to see me as a backup plan, that their laughter came from shame, and that she'd forgotten how to stand on her own. Living in a car, cold nights, hunger, it made her realize no one was coming to save them. They'd sold what they could, found small jobs and a tiny studio that was finally theirs. She said she was trying for real this time. I told her I forgave her and I meant it. We're not close now, but we talk sometimes. She updates me, I listen. The noise from my parents faded, and I kept my boundaries firm. Then on my birthday, I got a note from her with a $20 bill. "I'm not where I want to be yet, but thanks to you, I finally believe I can get there." It wasn't about the money, it was about what it meant. For the first time, she wanted to give something back. That night, sitting on my balcony with tea, I realized I wasn't waiting for chaos anymore. I was just still. And maybe that was what peace truly felt like.